Well, today we have a speaker that came to us from Awaken, Liz Kaisinger. I had a nice talk with Liz last night, yesterday morning. Liz is a local Philadelphia girl from the Albany area, and she is a public school counselor in Bridesburg. See, testing my memory pretty good. I asked her the proverbial question here at Circle. What was the path of your awakening? And we all ask ourselves that as we all continue on our own journeys. And Liz shared with me that she grew up with a Catholic school teacher mother in a Catholic school, and it provided community for her. It gave her structure, and it was a positive experience, but she did feel back at some point something was missing. But she proceeded on. She went to Holy Family College. She went to grad school, and a priest shared some yoga with you, right? And that was an opening for her. That's how it started. And so Liz is going to just unravel her story for us today. And then we're going to have some questions for her. And then she's going to do a meditation for us. So Liz, welcome to the Circle of Miracles for your first time.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I was a little reluctant to be here today. When Ken first called me, I felt so much inner resistance. And we had a really long conversation. And at the end of it, I don't know where this is coming from. I have no idea where this is coming from. That means I have to do it. It means I have to do it, but I don't know where this is taking me. And even up through, it was 2 months ago, the conversation I had with Suzanne, I just kept going back to the fact that who am I to speak to these people who are so deep into their spirituality when I've never even considered myself a spiritual person? And during my conversation with Suzanne yesterday, something just clicked. And I was able to, I think what I was resistant to was seeing myself and my journey as spiritual. And it has been nothing but that. And this opportunity helped me, I think yesterday a veil kind of lifted and I was able to see it in a different way. And I spent the day working through and scripting something and making sense out of my path. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you today. I come here in my role as a holistic health enthusiast, as a Reiki master and a counselor and a coach. And that's how Ken found me. And that's how I presented myself and who I was when I presented myself at Awaken. I play a lot of different roles in my life. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I have a large network of friends coming from a parish community in Philadelphia, a large network of friends and extended family in the area. And I've been in Philadelphia my entire life, with the exception of a little bit of time where I took a break in Florida, and that was with my sister. And so it's very close knit. And what I'm realizing about part of the reason that I didn't see myself as spiritual is because my path was so different from everyone else's. My path was the non-traditional path. And at the same time, there was that pull, that both sides that Mike talked about, the pull towards the non-traditional and doing things my own way, and that egoic judgment in my mind of why am I not like everybody else? Why can't I just do it the way everyone else does? And the judgment and the criticism and almost the self-punishment happening in my head And still I took the non-traditional path. And so my path was not linear at all. I became a non-practicing Catholic very soon after I left my mother's house. And to hear her tell it lovingly, I'm her heathen. And then the rest of us went that path, you know. And that was okay because I respected her devotion. I respected the values and everything that come from that. And I was just not seeing myself there probably as early as elementary school or you know, early middle school. And to the point where, yeah, I couldn't practice that, but I didn't know what I was or where I was. And then even to the point of my friends went off to college and I got a job. Then I went back to college and then I worked full time. And then I finished my degree at 30 while all my friends had graduated at 22. You know, I ended up going back to grad school. I got a corporate job because that's what I should do. When you grew up in a working class neighborhood and you get yourself a college degree, what do? You go into the corporate world where you can make money. And that was amazing. And that was not for me also. You know, that it was just not right and it didn't feel right. And what do I do though? I do it anyway, because that's what I should do. I'm shoulding all over myself. And then, everyone else is married, everyone else is having children. I'm graduating from college and I decide that's not for me. And I move to Florida for a little while. And then I come back home to be with my family and I buy a home as a single woman living my life. And that's just not what my family did, you know? Then I got laid off from said corporate job and I decide that was not for me. It was such a relief. And then I decide I'm going back to grad school and I don't pick just that next level of corporate or what's going to bring me the money. I pick counseling psychology. And it's not just a 33 credit master's program. It's double that, almost a PhD. And I didn't know how I was going to express it, but I knew at that point that I wanted to be in a helping profession and I wanted to work with children. And I wanted to bring I wanted to normalize for kids who were like me that it's okay to not be traditional. It's okay to take the other route. It's okay to start to learn to know who you are before you make these bigger decisions in your life. You know, to the point where at 36 years old, I go on a trip to see the Phillies in Boston and meet up with some friends from the area who are also on the trip and meet my husband who grew up with all of my friends and circled me socially for all of my life. And I went to Boston to meet him, you know, at 36 years old. We got married. We had our first child at 40 when all of our friends were getting ready to send their kids to high school. You know, we finished our family at in my mid 40s when my son was 6 years old by bringing one of my 16-year-old teenager students into our home as a foster child. You know, so nothing that we've done has been traditional. And so when I look back on my journey towards spirituality, all through all of that, it really started for me. And I realized after we talked, Suzanne, a little bit before that in college, I went to a Catholic high school or college because that was where that was what was best for me. And that small community was what was best for me and how I learned the best. And it was convenient, but you have to take those religion courses. You have to take multiple. And I decided that I didn't want more of the Catholic dogma. And I decided to take a world religions class. And so it talked about what I learned about were the 5 main religions and also some smaller religions. And I had to go on field trips. And I remember dragging my mom with me to a Hindu temple, to South Street, to a Buddhist meditation ceremony, And then I went to a couple of other things. I think I went to a Caribbean church down on South Broad Street. And it just opened my mind to so many things, because I was familiar with Christianity. I was familiar with Judaism. I wasn't familiar with all of these other religions. And the idea that all of these religions really had the same basis. They served the same purpose for everyone. And we were all alike. And all of this division, and I think that's what really bothered me about the Catholic Church, the exclusion of people who didn't believe what we believe, or didn't feel, or needed to find their own path. And so fast forward to the next semester, and there's a flyer at church or at school that the chaplain, a Catholic priest, is hosting a yoga and meditation introduction session. And I took 2 6-week sessions with him. And what I absolutely loved was his seamless integration of all of those Eastern principles with his beliefs and his Catholicism, and how he would relate that when he is with other priests, they just can't get him. And I'm like, yeah, nobody gets me either. And I don't even get me. And so that started me on 30 plus years at this point of practicing yoga, of learning yoga philosophy, of being a closet sort of spiritual person, because nobody else in my life experienced those things. And so what I learned, I'm trying to keep myself on track here. What I learned was that regardless of what else was happening in my life, when I was confronted with a health situation, a symptom, stress, pain in my life, and I had back pain, almost debilitating lower back pain that started in my mid-20s. I was always able to use that practice to bring myself back. And somehow I just knew that it was related, that the movement was medicine, that the breath was medicine, that the mindfulness was medicine, and that there were other lifestyle things that I could do that would impact my health. I didn't put the pieces together, but I knew that. And so I made those choices, and I worked towards making myself healthy and integrating those practices into my life every day in different forms, learning different traditions, things like that. And probably by about 2018, I was in my 50s, and I felt like I'd finally found my groove. I worked through anxiety. I worked through depression. I worked through digestive issues and back pain, and just so much of what I recognize now is as like the pulling back from this path that I was on. And I felt like I found my groove. I was prioritizing yoga and meditation every day. I was making sure I got enough sleep. I was feeding myself what I thought at the time was healthy food. And I was surrounding myself with people who were supportive. They might not have been on the same path that I was, but they were supportive. And I was in a good place. And then almost overnight, everything changed. There was a huge life event. I figured out that my mother-in-law, who was living alone, had been struggling with dementia and hiding it. There were issues in her home. There were pieces that needed to be unraveled. And the only place for her was in our home. And our entire lives just blew up. And I am here dealing with the stress of that, as well as all of my self-care practices just fell by the wayside. I had to take care of everyone else. I was going from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed. And after a few weeks, I could feel it. And I was on a drive to a conference in the summertime. And all of a sudden, I had this crazy back pain that started in my mid back. I can feel it right now, and went all the way up through my neck, shooting all the way up. I don't even know what this is. I don't know if I should stop my car. I don't know if I should, I don't know what to do. And so that was just the start of this upper body pain that I had never experienced before, that became so all-encompassing that it was never not there. And it was years of gaining weight back, of emotional eating, of constant stress and anxiety, of all of my digestive issues that I thought I'd healed. Everything just came back. I wouldn't sleep. And it was one of those days I would wake up routinely at 3 a.m. and I would lay there and I would ruminate, and my mind would just go and go and go. Why can't I get this under control? I know there's something that can happen. I'm taking all this medication. I don't want to be on all this medication. And one morning I decided to stop laying there and ruminate and get up and go downstairs. And I made myself a cup of tea and I sat in my dark living room and I had my phone and I pulled up, I use an app called Insight Timer. I pulled up Insight Timer and I found a meditation and I sat there quietly. I held my tea and I just sat. And when the meditation was over, I realized that I wanted to move my body. So I rolled out my mat right there in the living room and I just did what I could, matching my breath with my body. And then I did it again the next day. And then I did it again the next day, just small 5 to 10 minute things. And then I felt like I was taking my control back and my day was different. My reaction to my day was different. And then I started researching in the extra downtime that I had when I finished my practices, inflammation, causes of inflammation in my body. How can I revamp my nutrition? What am I taking into my body that's causing all of this pain? And so that took me down a road of playing with my diet, playing with my supplement regimen. And after about 6 weeks, of doing all of this, wow, this is so much better. My doctor wanted to send me to a rheumatologist and start biologics. And now I feel like I'm on a road to recovery. And I'm showing up for my family differently. And I'm really able to connect and be more nurturing with my mother-in-law. And I'm able to show up for my kids and juggle these things. And then my friend sent me a link to a book by John Sarno. I don't know if anyone's familiar with him. He was an orthopedist. And in the 60s and 70s, he started a clinic at Columbia, I think it was. And he believed that all chronic pain, regardless of how it started, stemmed from unprocessed emotion in our body. That trauma that you're talking about, Mike, he believed that was, and not just orthopedically, not just physical pain, also digestive issues, also other type of chronic conditions, if they are not caused by a huge contributing factor are these unprocessed emotions. And I read the book and immediately my life changed. I worked through a self-study program. Then I found people coming to me who wanted me to help them with what I was doing nutritionally and managing their issues. I helped my sister resolve her type 2 diabetes. She did it on her own. I just gave her some resources to start experimenting. And in 6 months from her diagnosis, she was back at a normal blood sugar level. And I was like, wow, this is something. I'm used to helping people in my work as a counselor. I'm used to my daily practices always relating to something that shows up in front of me with a student or with a colleague or with one of my kids. I'm used to all of that coming through. How can I help people in other ways find the same health that I do? And so I stumbled onto what's called IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I was floored the first 2 weeks because they introduced 3 primary principles. One is that health and wellness is multidimensional. It has to be in balance, and we have to balance the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And that resonated with my journey. Still, I was resistant to that spiritual piece. And the second thing was that it's bio-individual. And I think that that's the biggest piece. What works for me doesn't work for Suzanne, doesn't work for Glenda. It's tuning it. We know that innate wisdom is within us. It's clearing out some of this other stuff, the noise, to get there. And so, and then the third thing was that they have a circle of life, and there's 12 spokes, and there's everything from food and nutrition to your relationship to career to creativity, all of those things. And all of those things need nourishment, and that's our primary food, nourishing those things. The food we eat is secondary to all the rest of that. And that was just like, wow, okay, here I am, I'm home. And about 6 months into that, 2 days before I went on spring break for school, an email from a yoga studio that I go to dropped in, and they were starting a Reiki 1 attunement class that Saturday, the first day of my vacation. And I didn't even think about it. Bang, I signed up. And then a yoga teacher training that I could do in my own time dropped in. Like, this is what I've wanted to do for the last 20 years. And so this is me following each of these things and needing to get out of my head, get out of that judgment, and use all of these things for myself in terms of, and move away from my tendency towards feeling like I need to fix myself, and really letting go of some of that pre-programming from way back in childhood, and embrace the fact that I follow my vibes all the time, that the right thing presents itself. And I am moving towards this practice, I guess I would call it, because I was working towards business, and that's just not right for me, of helping people along their path towards optimal health and wellness. And so I don't know what it's going to look like in the end. I just spent a year after I finished all of these certifications working on and had been working on friends and family, and started putting myself out there and investing a whole lot in programs that help people build businesses, spirit-led businesses. And those aren't right for me. That's not the right expression for me at this point. I went through the whole year and invested a lot of time and energy to realize that what I'm feeling is not where I'm going. This is not it. And so I'm in a period where my theme for the year is to let go, to find the places where I'm gripping onto those old expectations, where my mind, my egoic mind, keeps going back to that judgment and comparison, and to let it come. I'm not ready to jumping into a career like that full time is not where I am right now, and I'm not done with counseling. And at the same time, it's something. I'm just not sure what exactly it will look like. And I'm not at a place where I have all the answers. I'll never be at a place where I have all the answers. And I think that one thing that Reiki has shown me, and that opened everything up for me, is that all of this is energy. And it made the movement is energy, the food is energy, the hydration is energy. And also all of this judgment, all of this comparison, all of the things that are stuck in my body and the things I needed to work through and process through when I was working towards clearing out some of my pain, all of that is energy. And so incorporating all of this into a practice that can help other people tune into their own innate wisdom and figure out the path that's right for them. Yeah. And so that's where I am in my journey. I feel like I am right about at my time. I think I got to everything without reading too much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to connect with all of you. This is a special place.